It's time for Hot Topics on the Rocks with Alexander. Better pour yourself another.
This is hot. That's hot. That's hot. This is really hot. That's hot. That's hot.
So hot, you guys. Okay. So we have ancient alien expert Tony Sweet, and then we have renowned Egyptologist Nicholas Brown. We're going to put some ancient alien fact to the test. Tony, I want you to give us what you know from the ancient alien world, and Nicholas, I want you to give us what you know from fact. First statement, ancient civilization didn't have the technology or manpower to build the pyramids. Tony, go ahead first.
So, just saying that I am no expert, I just interview experts.
Oh, well, he sure avoided that real fast, didn't he?
But yes, I've heard from many people that they did not have the technology to build the pyramids to what they are. They didn't have. This is what I've been told, that there was no way they could have used cranes or anything like that because they didn't have the manpower. Well, they had the manpower, but they didn't have the technology. So most people think it was through levitation, through alien technology.
And I have heard or seen the episodes where the aliens actually like help lift with their craft.
Right.
And also they say that the precision, the tools couldn't have carved the edges enough, all of that.
Right.
That's what I've heard.
All right. Now to an expert.
Right. So as an Egyptologist, I have to say that we actually do have the evidence for a large workforce that was based at the Giza Plateau working on these pyramids. We've got inscriptions, we have texts, we have the barracks where they were sleeping at night. And again, for a large population of these people to be working and building these monuments as well. In terms of the technology, while we don't, and I'll admit this as an Egyptologist, we don't know how the stones were actually stacked into the pyramid shape, right? Was it a straight ramp? Was it a ramp that went around the sides of the pyramid itself? We're not sure. We do have all the other archaeological evidence for, sledges, the tools that they used to carve the stones. We have the quarry right at the Giza Plateau where the blocks were being carved from. And I know Tony and I have talked about this before, but even when you look at the pyramids today, this idea that they're so precise and so, there's no error, there's nothing wrong, that's completely false. And even Egyptologists will say that. You look at the stones that make up the Great Pyramid, let's say, and there's huge gaps. They're filled in with mortar and rocks and all kinds of junk to kind of try to cover up, like, it would have been the outside, like the final casing of the pyramid, that would have been nice and precise and clean. But everything else, you see a lot of human error in the building of that pyramid.
And that's what I did learn from you. And then when you look at some of the pictures close up, you're like, yeah, it's clearly man-made, greatly done, but it's human error, and there's different generations of work being done. And you're the first person I heard that the actual materials, because in the ancient alien world, we're told they didn't even have that stone. And so I'm here thinking...
I've been told it was not from that area.
And then you shared that the quarry was literally so close. It's like, no, it was there.
Yeah.
Okay, next statement. Alien figures and UFOs have been depicted in Egyptian art and hieroglyphics, even Hollywoodized in the last Indiana Jones, by the way, with the long heads. And ancient aliens literally will show you UFOs and astronauts with the helmets. Right. It is very compelling.
It is. It is compelling. Unless it was just, CGI'd or made from Hollywood. It's hard to explain those drawings as hieroglyphs. Because my thing is going to even the Greeks. It's hard to believe that they just imagined many of these gods, the chariots, all this stuff,
and they're all about these heavenly bodies coming down with firepower.
Right.
That's what gets me.
That's where, for me, it's, even our dreams, most of the things we dream is things that we've seen or we may have seen and enhanced it in our dreams, but we've seen it. So same with the hieroglyphs. It's hard to believe that they just made something up and then 5,000 years later, we have it in our society.
Yeah. So
I love this, by the way. This excites me so much.
The one example that I'm thinking of in terms of the hieroglyphs and showing like these helicopters or UFOs or whatever being displayed, what we know from Egypt and from throughout its history, so not even just one certain period of time, but there was a lot of reuse going on of these monuments by not successing. Jeez, I can't talk. I think I've had too many drinks out of the
We haven't even played Truth or Sip yet, which is coming up.
Essentially, newer pharaohs would take over older pharaohs' monuments. And the easiest and quickest way to do that is you plaster over the hieroglyphs and carve a new inscription over that. And so in some of the cases, I know the one image that goes around Google of a helicopter being shown in an Egyptian temple has actually been disproven.
I never heard about that one, by the way.
Google it. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
So, one group says, oh, it's a helicopter. They had technology or aliens were there. The other group, which is me and the Egyptologists, when you actually go to that monument and look at it, you can see where the newer plaster has actually fallen out from the older inscription. And so what you're getting is essentially an overlay of two different hieroglyphic inscriptions that create the shape of a helicopter. So
we also have the elongated heads, which we have come to learn as alien, even from H.R. Geiger's alien concept.
Yeah.
God, there we have a boat.
We
have the Batmobile. Like we have everything. But look at the boat. Look at like a submarine.
Yeah.
It's pretty compelling. But the elongated heads.
I can really quick as an Egyptologist, I can read the hieroglyphs on that.
Can you please
point out what?
So, if you guys are listening to this as a podcast, you have to tune in. Go to ontherocksradioshow.com, click watch, and you can see what we're looking at.
Yeah.
This is sexy, by the way. Didn't you leave your partner like a hieroglyphic like lunch note?
Yeah.
So cute.
Put that degree to use. Yeah. So I mean, you've got the hand, right? You've got the hand on the right hand side, and then you've got so that's on our right, I guess, at the screen that I'm looking at here. And then next to that, you've got an eyeball, but overlaying that is a hand and an arm. So you can see as the plaster's falling out, right? It's kind of creating different shapes. And like the helicopter is the thing that people talk about on the left-hand side. But I see the eye, I see an arm, which you can see the arm again at the bottom right of our screen too.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah. So again, you can see it's for us as Egyptologists in this particular image, it's an overlay of two different hieroglyphic inscriptions where plaster is falling out.
And you saying the eye, the Egyptian eye is very curvy. It's very, you could make it into.
What's significant of that? Because it's used a lot, the eye.
Yeah, so it's the eye of Horus. So he.
Who are you calling a Horus?
Bitch, please, nobody's gonna pay you.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's a long myth, but essentially he has this battle with his evil uncle Seth, and Seth takes out his eye, and then another god, Thoth, creates a new eye for Horus so he can see. So
sound like the Duck Dynasty or something.
Yeah.
When I love how even in Egyptian culture it went from a polytheistic regime to a monotheistic.
Yeah.
Us having. Well, I'm still talking like a Christian, but us having like one idea of one God,
right?
That also is borrowed from what where we came from, because there was many gods. Okay, next one. Artifacts have been found in tombs made out of meteors and fashioned, meaning the meteor was pounded very thinly with technology that they didn't have back then.
Say that again.
This is
I may have to pass because I'm not for sure about this.
So I'm talking about a dagger, but there have been other findings that are made out of meteors.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well, meteors fall all the time, but it was fashioned so thinly and hammered so thinly, and we've only in recent times, and I use recent in quotes, learned how to fashion that kind of stone in such a thin way without any marks, without any evident manipulation. It literally looks like it's cut from one piece.
I mean, my thought is, I honestly haven't talked about that on my show before, about that specific. But I mean, I can look at it both ways. It's like, yeah, how would they do that? But then I was like, if you're the lower end of the spectrum and the ruler Pharaoh goes, you better do this, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but then we would have seen the dagger in so many other tombs, and it would have been like something of being an elitist. Then every pharaoh would have had this particular way. It was fashioned in such a beautiful way that even jewelers today were like, if we were to do it, you would still see lines.
Ask the Egyptologist.
Yeah. So what Alexander's referring to is this iron dagger of King Tut. And actually from the tomb of King Tut, we only have 3 objects made of iron at all. So yes, you're right to point out that there's not a lot of, this metal being used in ancient Egypt and stuff. And I can say as an Egyptologist that, they obviously could work metal. They had the skills to work gold and copper and bronze even. But as far as I understand with the Egyptians, they were pretty slow on the uptake with technological advances. And what I mean by that is, the use of iron, whereas the rest of the ancient Middle East was already into the Iron Age and starting to use iron and process it and make weapons and tools and stuff out of it. The Egyptians were still using bronze and copper, which is like inferior. It's not good to use for construction.
So they learned this from somewhere else?
Yeah, so it's possible.
Maybe they had a traveler.
You're right.
So it's possible that was an imported, object to Egypt.
Like a gift from one civilization to the other.
Or it's possible, like you said, Alexander, they found some meteorite site in the desert and they took whatever iron was there and brought it back to the Nile Valley and used it there in ancient Egypt. But yeah, even, with like cattle and stuff, like a very powerful animal, they didn't use cattle as like a beast of burden. They were using donkeys or manpower to move things and
well, they loved a good ass.
I mean, they did. But so again, with the Egyptians, they were lagging, compared to other cultures at the time. So
it's so funny, like in math and geometry. I think you mentioned this. Like they had tools of how to do like a 90% or a 90-degree right angle. Their concept of the stars and the solar system is just unfathomable.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Similarities have appeared in cultures on the other side of the globe that would have had no contact with Egyptian culture. We're talking about similarities in construction. We're talking even about pyramids themselves. We're talking about even longitude and latitude. Did I say longitude?
It's okay.
But we're talking about like you can diagram these across the globe, and they would have had no way to communicate, unless an alien came and said.
And that's I have heard that.
Okay, so tell me your.
Because
Machu
Picchu, Chichen Itza, Göbekli Tepe. I mean, the pyramids of Egypt. I've heard this many times that there's so much similarities that it is almost impossible that the similarities are just coincidence.
Yeah,
and without help from out of this world.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, the research is pretty.
It is
astounding. Yeah, absolutely. And my response to that, or my answer to that, might be a couple things. I think one, you have to look at the historical timeline of those monuments being built, and just the millennia that occur between when pyramids in the New World or South America, Central America are being built versus the pyramids in Egypt. Not to say that it couldn't have been aliens coming back and forth, whatever. But that's
you rolled your eyes just a little bit,
just a little. Only one.
Yeah, that's one thing to take into consideration. But then also, I know I've mentioned this to Tony before too. I think humans figured out pretty quickly that the easiest way to build a large, tall monument is to stack stones, right? And just do it in the easiest shape to do that in is a pyramid shape as well.
It's funny, as kids, we build Lincoln logs, and what you do is stack, stack, stack.
Yeah.
But we didn't stack it.
Yeah,
like this.
And in terms of the precision,
I'm on this one. I'm this way.
Yeah, and I mean in terms of precision and alignments and all this stuff. I mean these different cultures in the ancient world, right, were really insightful and observant, not only of their natural world in the daytime, but also like astronomy and the stars and the planets and alignment and all that stuff.
It's amazing how advanced they were when it comes to astronomy.
Yeah,
see that to me is insane.
Yeah.
More than we are.
The Egyptians were the first to develop the 365-day calendar, combining the solar calendar with the lunar calendar and figuring it out.
Where does that kind of knowledge come from?
Right. Being no television, no internet, no computers. What else are you going to do? Right? Like, so.
Now, did the number 365 come from anything? Because why randomly 365?
There's always I can't remember exactly, but everything is very like the height of the steps, how many steps. It's like, in Machu Picchu, and I just got back from Cancun and went to Chichen Itza. And
You poor thing.
I know it was hot.
Research.
Right, but it actually was.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, everything had a reason for why they built it, the height and everything. So yeah, I mean, I can't recite it back to you, but there was a reason.
Yeah.
So that is our hot topics. I don't know that there is a clear winner. I just love this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Because